praised. There is none like unto thee. Therefore, Lord our God, and permission be granted. First and foremost, we come before you to say, Todah, 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 Yah, for all that you do for us each and every day. We thank you, Lord our God and God of our fathers, that you have kept us to this very precious moment, that you've allowed us to observe this feast of unleavened bread. Even in days, oh Lord our God, when people have forgotten about you. Even in days where people are trying to glorify deities and Satan and all kind of things, oh Lord our God, you reign supreme. There is none like unto thee. So we come before you, your servants, so very thankful that you have returned your holy name to our mouth. That we might, oh Lord our God, get the opportunity to bow down to the one who said, let it be, and it was. We come before you because there is no other. You are the founder of life and death. You, oh Lord our God, are the owner of time and space. Who is like unto thee? So we come before you, Lord our God, thanking you, Lord our God, for your manifold blessings. Thanking you, Lord our God, for watching us and bringing us back and forth and watching over our old people and our young people, Lord our God. There is none else besides thee. We, Lord our God, are fully aware that you are walking heavy in the earth now, Lord God. For, Lord our God, we have not been those that have not suffered casualties. But we want to say in the midst of it all and in the face of it all, blessed, blessed, blessed be your holy name. We, Lord our God, bless you in our coming in, and we bless you in our going out. For there is none like unto thee. Oh, Lord our God, we are not delusional. We know, oh Lord our God and God of our fathers, that you are shaking the earth, oh Lord our God, and we are not exempt. So we thank you. We thank you for saving us, oh Lord our God, the portions that you have saved, oh Lord our God. We promise to do better. Oh Lord our God, we promise to love you better. Oh Lord our God, you demanded that we love you with our whole heart, soul, and might. Oh Lord our God, help us, teach us, show us, oh Lord our God. We know that we can do it because you commanded that we do so. So we ask that you would give us the strength. We ask that you would give us the wherewithal to learn to love you better than we have. That your name may be given the honor and the glory that you so richly deserve. We bless and thank your name for this house of prayer. We pray, oh Lord our God, that you would bless, oh Lord our God, from the head of it to the foot, oh Lord our God. From the saw down to who carries the wood, oh Lord God. That you would bless them mightily, oh Lord our God, even the Hebrew family of Charlotte here in our shop in Israel. Oh Lord our God and God of our fathers, prosper them, oh Lord our God, according to your might and according to your way. Oh Lord our God, remember even our congregation of B'nai Adath in Israel. Oh Lord our God, have mercy, oh Lord our God, and restore and redeem, oh Lord our God, for we trust in you alone. Oh Lord our God, there is no words that we can offer you to give you thanks for all that you have done. So we come before you, Lord our God and God of our fathers, in recognition of your power and your might. Thanking you, Lord our God, that you allowed us to be among those that get to bless thy holy name. Oh Lord our God and God of our fathers, we ask, oh Lord our God, that you would teach us and show us. That we, oh Lord our God, would learn to love one another, oh Lord God. That we would learn, oh Lord our God, to walk according to your way, oh Lord our God, that you demanded that we would love one another, take no vengeance against one another, that we would not harbor a grudge against one another. You, oh Lord our God, have demanded this of us, oh Lord our God. Give us the strength and the heart to comply, oh Lord our God, that we in this generation may no longer be accused of not serving you with joyfulness and gladness. Oh Lord, our God and God of our fathers, give us joy for the Pesach. Give us joy for the Kabbah. Bring joy for the counting of the Omer. Bring joy, oh Lord, our God, for Shavuot. Oh Lord, our God, let us have joy as we look forward to all of the things that you provide for us each and every day. That we might clap our hands, stomp our feet, declare that there is none else besides thee. We give you thanks today. Because there is none like unto thee. We thank you, O Lord our God, for all the saving that you have done, for all the healing that you have performed. Who would like unto thee? We give you all honor, all praise, and all glory. I ask, Lord our God, that you would bless this priesthood, O Lord God, that you would bless this ministry, O Lord God. That they might, oh Lord our God, tell about praise and about wonders, oh Lord our God. That people might be attracted to hear the word of God, that they might better their lives by the same. Oh Lord our God and God of our fathers, we cry out to you. Because you are our hope. You are our help in every generation. And besides you, we have none. We bless and thank your name. All of your goodness and your mercy and your kindness, you have been abundantly gracious. And we just want to say Todah. Therefore, Lord our God, we come before thee to bless thy name even on this wise, to declare thy sovereignty forever and ever, as we would say. Blessed art thou, Lord our God, the King of the universe, who is the form of light, the creator of darkness, the maker of peace and the creator of war, the master of good and the creator of evil. Blessed art thou, Lord our God, who is the King of the universe forever and ever. Let all the people under the sound of our voice come together to simply say, Amen. Let us sing the Shema. Oh, Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu. Even with the Psalms for this Shabbat, the Psalm being 79, the 121st, the 124th, and we conclude with the 148th Psalm. At this time, we would like to even welcome our sister that is online, Thanking the Most High God for allowing her to see another year of life. And we ask that God will bless her to see many more years of life even on this earth. Our sister, even our co-Frazion. Hallelujah.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. How are you guys?
Well.
I'm sorry, Genesis. Yes, my birthday was I think was Wednesday. Yes. Okay. I'm pulling my phone up now. Sorry. Okay, it's on the screen. Okay. Am I gonna read everyone, or do I read the first, and then you guys are gonna read the second?
It's up to you. Just go ahead and read it, and or read it through.
Okay. 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 Oh, Yehovah, the heathen are coming to thy inheritance. They have defiled thy holy temple. They have laid Jerusalem into heaps. They have given the dead bodies of thy servants to be food unto the fowls of the heavens, the flesh of thy saints unto the beasts of the earth. They have shed blood like water round about Jerusalem, with none to bury them. We are become a taunt to our neighbors, a scorn and derision to them that are round about us. How long, O Yahweh, wilt thou be angry forever? How long will thy jealousy burn like fire? Pour out thy wrath upon the nations that know thee not, and upon the kingdoms that call not upon thy name. For they have devoured Yaakov and laid waste his habitation. Genesis. Sorry. Remember not against us the iniquities of our forefathers. Let thy compassion speedily come to meet us, for we are brought very low. Help us, O Yahweh, our salvation, for the sake of thy glory of thy name, and deliver us and forgive our sins for thy name's sake. Wherefore should the nations say, where is their God? Let the avenging of thy servant's blood that is shed be made known among the nations in our sight. Let the groaning of the prisoner come before thee, according to the greatness of thy power. Set free those that are appointed to death, and render unto our neighbors sevenfold into their bosom their reproach with they have reproached thee, O Yah. So we, thy people, and the flock of thy pasture, will give thanks to thee forever. We will tell of thy praise to all generations.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. I just want to thank the Most High again for letting me to make it another year, to continue to be with me and my family, and to just continue to be a blessing to us. And it's a lot of crazy things going on. It just reminds me of all the plagues, like stuff in Australia, even the stuff that we have going on here. I'm just so happy to be alive, and I miss you guys, and just happy that I'm able to be a blessing even to my family and to other people. I'm just so thankful. I mean, I love the Most High. I'm so happy that I was born into this and I didn't have to be doing something else. And I'm just grateful for the Most High to be so merciful and just giving us another chance every day to be better. And man, love the Most High. I love you guys. You guys have a great rest of your Shabbat.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Most High, for your life, co-Frazion. At this time, let us welcome even one of the bakbymedia in our midst, even Makor Eliyahu ben Mishai Yaakov ben Dan. Hallelujah. He will read or lead us in the 121st Psalm. Shabbat shalom, brother.
121st Psalm.
Amen.
A song from the saints. I will lift up my eyes to the mountains. From where shall my help come from?
My help coming from the Lord,
who made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber.
Behold, he that keepeth Israel,
does neither slumber nor sleep.
The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand.
the sun shall not smite thee by day, nor
The Lord shall keep thee from all evil. He shall keep thy soul.
the Lord shall guard thy going out and thy coming in.
From this time forth and forever. Hallelujah.
I like to thank you for my life, like the life of you all. That I need to see every day of life. And today, I still make it here without any shootings.
Let us welcome even here in the community,
here in this building, Chod Mashiach, Eshe Apokariel Ben Yehudah, hallelujah, for the 104th.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
All honor, praise, and exaltation is due to the Most High, for He is great and His mercy endures forever. A song of ascents of David. If it had not been Yehovah who was for us, let Israel now say.
If it had not been Yehovah who was for us, when men rose up against us,
Then they had swallowed us up alive, when their wrath was kindled against us.
then the waters had overwhelmed us, the stream had gone over our soul.
Then the proud waters had gone over our soul.
Blessed be Yehovah, who have not given us such a prey to their teeth.
Our soul is escaped as a bird out of the snare of the fowlers. The snare is broken, and we are escaped.
Our hope is in the name of Yehovah, who saves.
We would like to think that we're gonna be that soul that escapes the snare of these fowlers.
Yes.
It's gonna take some deep introspection. I realized, probably about 2 o'clock this morning, it's a lot that's going on. And the Most High is really testing us. And if we don't show that faith and show Him that we're strong in Him, everything else around you that's going on is gonna affect you. But when you put your faith and trust in the Most High, and you truly just have that introspection, like, what can I do better?
Right.
How can I help my brothers and sisters?
Right.
What can I do to help this nation
Right.
propel and get to the point that we are in that remnant? We need to keep this inheritance and this heritage of ours strong. And the only way to do that is to have strong individuals, strong families, which build strong communities, and ultimately a strong nation. So let's get strong mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and hunker down, because it's only gonna get worse before it gets better. So prepare your spirits and your minds, family, because it's happening. This is happening. I don't know if you are really paying attention. It's happening. So I pray that the Most High will protect us all, keep us safe from dangers seen and those unseen. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Last, but certainly not least, let us welcome even Alicia Butler, who's online, to finish out the psalm service with Psalms 148. Let us welcome her. Hallelujah.
Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thanking the Most High for this day, for this holy season, and thankful to be online. I have to say that I fell asleep after the meal, down, and
That's usually how it happens.
all of a sudden I hear this voice. I know it was Rabbi Baruch, but I hear this voice singing and going into the prayer. So I came but my eyes, since he was praying, my eyes was still closed, and he gets to the end. It was so powerful. Greatly enjoyed that, Rabbi. And then I wake up, open my eyes, and I see, do you want to do a song? I'm like, oh, all right. So it caught me off guard. I know I probably got a little sleep in my voice, but thank you, he woke me up, because I could have still been that voice had not been so powerful. So that 148 Psalm, hallelujah.
Dora, before you start, just go ahead and read it through, okay?
Okay, sure. Hallelujah. Praise ye Jehovah from the heavens, praise him in the heights. Praise ye him, all his angels. Praise ye him, all his hosts. Praise ye him, sun and moon. Praise him, all you stars of light. Praise him, ye heavens of heaven, and ye waters that are above the heavens. Let them praise the name of the Most High, for he commanded, and they were created. He has also established them forever and ever. He has made a decree which shall not be transgressed. Praise Jehovah from the earth, ye sea monsters and all deeds. Fire and hail, snow and vapor, stormy winds fulfill his words. Mountains and all hills, fruitful trees and all cedars, Beasts and all cattle, creeping things and waste fowl, kings of the earth and all people, princes and all judges of the earth, both young men and maidens, old men and children. Let them praise the name of the Lord, the name alone. So his glory is above the earth and heaven. And he has lifted up a horn for his people, a praise for all his saints, even for the children of Israel, a people near unto him. Hallelujah. Thanking again, we always praying the Most High will give us another day of life and wake us up. But Rabbi Baruch showed me that we could be woken up in many ways. So I'm thankful that he woke me up, that the Most High woke me up, and that even the messages this morning wake you up in the spirit. So we thank you for life up on so many different levels today, and praying everybody has a blessed closing out of this holy season, and that we will be safe in our travels to our homes near and far. Blessed be his great and holy name, now and forevermore. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Amen. All praise and honor to the Lord of Israel. We thank the Most High for all of the psalmists on this holy Shabbat day. May Jehovah bless you and keep you. Those that were not chosen, may God bless you to be chosen the next time we meet, hopefully, and pray that God will give us life. At this time, before calling our after, I would ask if you would do the Most High standing so that we can sing a song before the Holy One of Israel. And we'll start off with a song called Ha'azinani, Give Ear Unto Me, as we continually ask God to hear our prayers, not only hear them, but to answer us as well. That He would accept our prayers in mercy. So let us hear the voices of Rabbi Shah, and those that are drumming, hear your voices as well. Rabbi Shah and those two sisters that are here. Ha'azinani,
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. God high. God high. God high. This time, let us even welcome even the Saw of the Bible, the leader of this community, my
B'nai Adath family, welcome to Charlotte. Give thanks to the Creator of heaven and earth. Yes, sir. For all his mercy and blessings. God told again. God, we still in the car. Thanking him for the lives of his all, as well as for myself and my family. Thanking him for all of his mercy and compassion, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, food, clothing, shelter, all of the mercies and the blessings he's bestowed upon us since we saw each other a few days ago. Wow. I wasn't ready. I was enjoying the praise session. I'm not gonna keep it going. If y'all didn't get it done before I got up here, it's not my fault. So, again, it's been a wonderful week. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I guess I'm not speaking loud enough. Thought I was loud, sorry. So the day is going very well, wouldn't you say? Hallelujah. Most has been really good to us, and we have so many things to be thankful for when we see what's going on in the world. And we're going to talk about some of it. Can't talk about all of it. It's far too much. But we do have a lot to be thankful for, and I just don't want us to ever forget that. In spite of whatever we're going through individually, collectively, the Most High has been very, very gracious to us. We're going to start out with a question and answer period, just to cover anything that was discussed this week or this today or in it tonight, whatever is on your minds. Hopefully we'll keep it in accordance and respect for the Holy Shabbat day. Anyone can ask a question, you can answer a question. You're only asking in the event of a controversy, the final decision rests up here, not because I know more or anyone else that helps me out knows more, because we want to maintain order on the Holy Shabbat day. So the question and answer period is now. Family online, please feel free from either community to send something in the chat, and we will try to respond to your questions accordingly. Okay, anyone in the audience here have a question? Okay, looks like this is going to be a short question and answer period. Okay, and by the way, it's a pleasure having Rabbi Baruch and his sons here.
How far back?
I don't know. I remember one of the first times I saw him, it might have been the first time I saw him. He came to my mother's house. We were having services in Rosedale, in her basement. And he came along with some other young teenagers, and they actually were the ambassadors to getting our communities to communicate and to congregate together. Because before that, it wasn't happening. As a matter of fact, you could have gotten stoned for going to visit another community. And these young men went out of their way to bring an olive branch between the communities. And it was the beginning of a lot of great moments that we've had between our two communities, going back to Rosedale and then the Boulevard, and even down here in B'nai Adath, and other communities in Brooklyn and throughout the New York area. So it's been a wonderful time, and we've had the opportunity to work together many times on many projects while I was living in New York. It was an adventure.
You taught me a lot. Hallelujah.
I learned from
I got one more job for. I got one more job.
You always have one more job. Every time I think I'm done, I get one more job.
Put in the work, Rabbi. Hallelujah.
But I'm thankful that the Creator has used me
Yes, sir.
as a tool to try to get things done in this nation, because we all have a purpose. We all have value, and we all need to make sure that we fulfill our purpose. So, are there any questions now? Somebody talk to me. I see a question here.
Oh,
But go ahead.
no, I was going to say, Rabbi, is anyone checking to see if they have questions?
Checking your,
Okay, Kaveh Bathsheba has a question.
okay. All right, Bathsheba. Start no trouble. What's the question? He's not even reading the question. That makes me nervous. Read it to yourself first, by the way.
I did.
Make sure it's-
Kaveh Bathsheba asks, are we able to identify the sinew of the thigh vein when we're slaughtering animals?
All right.
And the answer to that question is yes. Okay, so, for those who may be unaware of what the background of this question is, don't start from.
Okay, please.
Remember when Jacob met the angel? Yeah? And he said, and he wrestled with him all the night. And finally he said, the angel said, let me go. He's not. Jacob said, no, that's not happening. I'm not letting you go. So the angel touched his thigh and hurt him in a way, divinely. Jacob said, that was nice, but I'm not letting you go. You have to bless me first. And he changed his name to Yisrael. That's right. And because he had that limp for the rest of his life, some people think it passed down into genetics. But because he had that limp for the rest of his life, they said the children of Israel did not eat the sinew of the thigh vein to this day. So if you go into markets, they don't usually have the bottom half of the animal in kosher markets unless someone knows how to identify the sinew of the thigh vein and they take it out so that the rest of the animal can be eaten. It is custom. I want to say that. That's a custom. You do not find that in the pages of the Torah law about not eating animals. But that became a custom in our tradition that's written in the book of God. So I just wanted to identify that clearly and make that understood. Shabbat Shalom.
I hope you and anyone else who heard the question is satisfied with the answer that Rabbi Baruch has rendered to us. So I got a question here on my phone. Is anyone in the audience out here that has a question? Okay. My question is it permissible to buy on the 8th day of Pesach? Okay, so I'm going to make a couple clarifications, and then maybe the questioner wants to revise the question. The first thing is that Pesach is only for an evening, for a night. And the rest of the time, the 7 days, is a cod. It's a feast of unleavened bread. So Pesach only lasts from dusk until dawn of the first day of Kod Matzah. And there is no 8th day. So you may want to rephrase your question. It's only 7 days for the feast of unleavened bread. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to rephrase your question if you wish to, based on the information I've just given. Okay? Anyone else? And we'll wait for that question to be re-asked. Okay, we have Naomi in the audience who has a question. This is our future professor. Oh, president. Yeah.
Shabbat Shalom. Last night we were talking about the things that were going on where people were hate criming and different people. So my question was, can Black people can they be racist?
All right, can you repeat that question because you were turned away from me and I couldn't hear. Can you face me and ask the question now?
Can Black people be racist?
Give me the background.
Okay, can Black people be racist? And what was the point that you made before that?
Because I saw a lot of Asian people were being
Right.
a lot of people that
Yes, yes. Yes. It's a very good question. Anybody can be racist.
Hallelujah. Come on, son.
Anybody can be racist, and the Most High told us not to be racist. And in His law, when He told us not to hate the Egyptians and not to hate other people because we were slaves in the land of Egypt. And so after what we've been through, and I know it's easy to hate. It really can be very easy to hate because of all of the hate that has been tossed at us, and I haven't even gotten started yet. So this is going to be a rough ride, so fasten your seatbelts because we have been subjected to racism from the time we went into Egypt. And unfortunately, you learn bad habits from your captors and from society around you. And so the world is racist and hateful, and Black people think that they're doing it, I believe, in many cases because of the hatred that's been portrayed upon us. But if there's one thing you know, you don't fight fire with fire. You got to fight fire with water. And it's a difficult thing sometimes when you see, and again, I'm getting ready to get into some deep stuff here, but yes, we can be racist, and it's not a good thing because it only puts more evil in our hearts and poisons our spirit. And so it's just not a good thing to do, and we have to find another way to redirect that energy because we have a lot of reasons to hate a lot of people, and it's really, really a tough thing. And I can admit that I've been racist, and I may have a little bit in me still, but it's something that I'm fighting because I realize that it does not help us. And, we can't do things to other people and think it's okay. And then when it happens to us, we want to go out and, protest and riot. So we have a long way to go. A lot of it has to do with our history and the things that have been portrayed upon us by the nations, by this country. It's not just the people, it's the government. And so, and then when we look at our history here, and a lot of it's now documented on film, not to mention all the writings that we have, it's very, very difficult to not hate in this country because there's so much hatred that's become the norm and acceptable. It really isn't easy, and I don't want to make it sound like it is, but we have to fight it. We have to fight it. Okay, I hope I answered your question. I don't know if that other question has been redirected. We're gonna move along if you don't have any more. Okay, weird. Okay, can we get a mic over to the brother?
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you. My question is, Shabbat shalom, Obam. Shabbat shalom. This is about Nadav and Abihu and the offering of the strange fire. Did it actually mention that they were drinking when it comes to the strange fire? And how do we come up with some kind of conclusions of, and what is considered a strange fire? And that's kind of my question.
Okay, thank you for your question. I'll answer the second part first. Let's get to the portion if we can. The second part of your question was what is strange fire? Strange fire is anything that the Creator didn't command them to put on. So if they decided to smoke a cigarette, that's strange fire. But they actually did something that obviously was an offering before the Most High that was not commanded. So let's call it anything like that would be strange fire. Leviticus 10. All right, so how we know that is because directly after they were slain and burned to crispy critters, as we used to say, the Most High gave a commandment. Okay, so let's go there.
We're in the book of Leviticus, 10th chapter, the 8th verse. This is after Nadav and Abihu offered a strange fire before the Almighty. And Yehovah spoke unto Aharon, saying, drink
no wine, nor strong drink, thou nor thy sons with thee, when ye go into the tent of meeting, that ye die not. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations, that ye may put a difference between the holy and the common, and between the unclean and the clean.
Come on, sir.
And that ye may teach the children of Yisrael all the statutes which Yehovah has spoken unto them by the hand of Moshe. Okay, so we see from these last 3 verses that the Most High went directly, and so apparently, see, 2 things happen. This is why we have a rule in the Levitical order that if you are standing before the Creator, working and doing whatever, do not have alcohol in your system. I won't even say a prayer if I've had alcohol in my system before the people, because you never know what the mind is going to do. It's a mind-altering beverage, drink, or whatever. So that's the first thing. So obviously, they might have been drinking while they were there, and then they decided to do whatever. Everybody has their own image of whatever it is they did. But it was obviously unpleasing to the Creator to the point where he took them out and he gave them no time to take off their clothes. He gave them no time to throw water on themselves. He gave them no time to even think. And so the wrath of the Creator can turn on any one of us just like that when we decide to play with him. And look at we have so many examples in our history of how the Creator deals with those of us who think they can play around with him and what he tells us to do. Okay, sure. Shabbat shalom. One thing I wanted to mention in my portion earlier today that I did not, speaking about the Shabbat and being able to cease or withhold from doing certain things. And I know you mentioned as far as the Levitical order and some of the things that they should not do. But even for us as the common people, certain things on the Shabbat, as far as drinking and things of that nature, these are things that we really need to stop and cease from doing on the Shabbat day. And one thing I really love about the Shabbat, because if you have the discipline to be able to do it on the 7th day, if you want to go above and beyond other days and try to withhold from doing certain things in your life, that's a clear sign that you have the capability to do it. But you just, as you mentioned, putting a separation between the holy and the common. When the Shabbat come around, certain days come around, certain things we should not partake of.
That's right, sir.
Anything that common things that we do. He said we have 6 days.
Right.
We have 6 days to enjoy ourselves and to be secular.
Right.
On the Most High's day, we should withdraw from all of those things, give it a rest, give the glory to the Most High, and try to abstain from all of the things that we do on the 6 days that we know are not necessary, that should not be done on the Holy Shabbat day. Whether you're coming out to the building or you're staying home, whether I don't care if you're on vacation, whatever it is, we need to keep that day holy. We can adapt to anything if we need to. Okay, Torah about for your
A couple of
comment.
comments on mine.
We have another comment? Okay.
A couple of comments on mine. One was in response to Naomi's question.
You try to keep the mic, you try to.
One was just a comment from Derek Chauvin, just to Naomi's point. She was just saying, in her view, Shabbat Shalom, racism is a system of power. Black people are not in power. We can be bigoted, biased, and prejudiced, but not racist. Was her comment on that? The question that came in is from J.A. Johans, or Yolante. Given this holy season, can you give me 3 parts of advice or that you can give to a firstborn son of a widowed household who is also a father himself, that would aid his house spiritually and physically with the laws of the Torah and the ways of Yahweh?
Okay, that's a tough one. Given this holy season and the new year, can you give me 3 parts of advice you can give to a firstborn son of a widowed household who is also a father himself, that would that would aid his house spiritually and physically with the laws of Torah. The first thing I would suggest to him is to, first of all, have a connection with the Most High, build a relationship with the Creator so that he knows you. He's going to know you by your thoughts before he knows you by your words or your deeds. Secondly, I would suggest to you that you be the example
Yes.
of what it is you want for everyone else in your house to do. So you cannot say, do as I say, not as I do. You have to be the example of what it is you want the rest of the house that you manage to live by, the rules that you want them to live by.
Yeah.
Thirdly, as a parent, I would say to you that you have to be a parent 24/7. You do not have a vacation. You do not have a day off being a parent. And you have to make sure that you teach your children the right thing. Don't give them what they want. Give them what they need. And that requires discipline from you, and it teaches discipline to your children. And that's only three. I could go on and on. I won't do it. I've been a parent for a long time. Somebody want to add something to that? And I see a lot of fathers' hands going up, and I do appreciate the help. Okay, let's do it. Take our time. Everybody can have something to say about that. We all want to help this brother out.
Shabbat shalom aleichem.
Shabbat shalom.
The last thing I want to tell the brothers is find yourself a mentor. You have to find someone here on earth that you can look at and see that's a righteous person, that's a godly person. I don't care if you're grown. Grown don't mean nothing. Just because you reached, there's no magic age that you reach that makes you grown. I know they tell you this foolishness, this fairy tale is like you turn 18, you magically become some grown person. You're not. You don't even know what pajamas you still want to wear. That's what I tell you. So what I'm telling you is find somebody on this planet that you can look at and see as a righteous individual that you can get direct questions from, that you can emulate, because he said he's in a widow's house. That means he doesn't have a father. Provide yourself a father. Find someone who can be there for you. Right? And don't feel no way about you being taught something because you think you're grown.
I would just add that means that you have to directly communicate with them. Don't look at them and say, oh, I like that person. I'll follow, see what they do. No, talk to that person, get to know that person, and get and develop a relationship with them where you can go to them at any time when you need advice or you need guidance, because we all need it, and that was some great advice, Rabbi. Cohen, did you want to add something? You good? Okay.
Rabbi said.
All right. Exactly. So, I hung out with older men because I wanted them to teach me. My peers, I always seemed to be light years ahead of some of my peers, and so, they had to be 5, 6 years older than me, and I could sit down and talk to them and get advice. And it's always been a help to me. And then I got to a point where I became the advisor. They will not let me retire. So, that's what you want to do. And again, you have to choose people whose lives you respect. And you can't, they can't give you advice if they're not taking their own advice. And so we all slip and fall, and we all make mistakes, but integrity is what we have to all strive for. And that way you can do that. And so many of our young men, you know, in this nation think they know everything. And they don't need, they want to learn themselves. They want to figure it out themselves. I haven't heard anybody suggest that they want to die themselves in order to see what it's like. You know, they rather see somebody else go down that road than let it be them. So let's not be foolish about these thoughts of, I want to experience it myself. There's certain things you do not want to experience yourself. Everything you do not want to experience yourself. So don't use that as an excuse to do things after someone tells you it's a bad idea. Think about it long and hard. And then after you make that mistake, just remember, be prepared to suffer the consequences. Don't go crying to somebody else for, you know, to take off the pain. You gotta go, you wanna go through it, and make it to the other side. Okay, is that it? Can we get everyone online on the chats? Good. Okay, so what's going on? There's a lot going on, and I'm compelled to talk about it. And let me get to some of this stuff. Calm down. Okay, so yesterday, I got a text yesterday afternoon. One of the young brothers texted me and said, "Saul, please." What's that?
Don't do it.
Somebody said, "Saul, please talk about what's going on in the
What's
Capitol."
going on?
I said, I have it on my list. Yesterday.
You want to take this question?
Okay, I'll take this. Maury, I sent you some stuff. Look in your email, and some of them was from but I want to. Sleep out, okay now. You might have water here. About the shop.
Shalom. My question is, what if a vegetarian, okay, so does
a vegetarian have to eat the lamb? Yes. Okay, the vegetarian is required to eat the lamb. The Most High says everybody's supposed to eat the lamb. You don't have to eat a large piece of lamb. You just have to eat enough that you can chew and swallow. And then you've complied with the law. So it's just that simple. There's nothing else I need to add to that. You just have to eat enough to say that you ate some lamb, and that's it. I know some people, even though they're vegetarians, they eat lamb on Passover. You know, they eat a decent quantity of it and enjoy it. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not funny. Listen, you know. Yeah, you know, let's get it in while we can. It's a law. Yeah, it's a law. They're actually complying with the law. And if you're going to comply with the law, you know, if the law tells you to do something, you don't say, well, I'm going to do as little bit as possible. I mean, really, the law said do it. You're supposed to do it. I say do it. You know, don't overdo it, but do it with a good spirit. It's a purpose. So, whether you out there who are eating that lamb, enjoy that lamb, and then go back to your diet.
Amen.
Exactly. So, I'm going to leave it at that. Don't want to get in trouble. Okay, so getting back to my point. What's going on? Okay, so the Capitol Police, I'm aware there was something I sent you with regard to a conversation with, I just sent you yesterday. I'm going to do that after I cover that particular topic. So, this young man, 25 years old, his name was Noah Green. I'm home and I'm watching this on TV while actually the trial that I was watching had just finished for the day within minutes. This new thing came on breaking news, where this young man went to the Capitol and he rammed his vehicle into 2 Capitol Police, got out and stabbed one of them. One of them eventually died. I'm not sure if he died from the stab wound or he died from the force of the vehicle hitting him. And then he got out, wielding a knife, and the Capitol Police shot him and killed him. And so I thought it was strange because that's not some of the things that we do. You know, we got our stuff, don't get me wrong, but that's not one of the things we do. And come to find out, after they started investigating him, looking at his social media and all of that, we found that he was actually had mental illness. He was saying that Maury, I don't know if you had the article that I had sent you. I just wanted to read some of the things that he said in his profile. If we can get to it, let me see. Take a look at this. He made a comment. All right, here we go. Posts on Green social media accounts suggest he was struggling with mental illness, including paranoia and delusion. As he wrote about suffering from multiple home break-ins, food poisonings, assaults, unauthorized operations in the hospital, mind control. And then he said, this was interesting, he's a apparent admirer of the House of the Nation of Islam leader, Minister Farrakhan, I don't think you know him, posted a video with a caption stating that the U.S. government is the #1 enemy of black people. Some of y'all might agree with that, and attributed his terrible afflictions to forces he presumed were a part of the CIA and FBI, government agencies of the U.S., United States of America. So we see he had mental issues, and so these types of things can happen at anywhere, anytime. And honestly, it could happen to any one of us. It's just a matter of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So, you know, they're going to still, I'm sure there's more information that's come out since I stopped watching the news yesterday. But these are the types of things we talk about all the time, where you could be someplace and the next story is just as bad. You could be someplace and not know what's going on in the minds of the people around you. So your really only salvation is your righteousness and the mercies of the Creator. And that's why we constantly say, try to have that connection with Him so that He will be merciful and steer you away. We know that He has the capacity to prevent us from being victimized in these certain situations. And so I pray that the Creator that we are doing the things that we need to do in order that the Creator will be merciful unto us, because any one of us, our family members, can be victimized in one of these totally unexpected ways. You don't have to do anything wrong in that moment for you to be victimized in a situation. It could be something you did yesterday, or something you did this morning, or something you did last year that the Creator said, this is how your demise is coming. You're going to go out horribly. You're not going to go out in peace. Because we all have to die one day, but do we want to die a violent death? Who wants to do that? By a stranger, or even someone you know. And so this is the things that we constantly pray for, and we pray that the Most High hears our prayers and will be merciful unto us. Okay, so now, there was another mass shooting in California. 4 people were killed a couple of days ago, and I believe this gentleman, we call him a gentleman, but this killer went into a particular office building. It's not the right word. And so he went to an office and he killed people he knew, including a 9-year-old kid. But you could be caught in a crossfire. You just never know. These are the things that are happening in our world. And for the young boy to get up here when he read the psalm and say, I'm glad that none of us was victim of a shooting. Who would think that that's something that this is how our children are walking on the earth, that they have to worry about these things. This is why, as a parent, we have to prepare them for any and everything. We can't shield them anymore like we used to be able to do. There's no such thing. You can't close their eyes and their ears. It's a part of the world and what's happening.
And if it's on the TV, it's gonna come up and they're gonna see it. We just have to tell them about the Most High and how we can take certain steps to try to avoid this type of violence. Now, again, we just had a situation with a woman, and I'm kind of moving around on my list because I'm saving some of this stuff for later because it's gonna take me a minute to go through it. But this woman is on a trip to her not a honeymoon, but a anniversary celebration with her husband coming from Pennsylvania. She actually was in North Carolina when her husband must have gone over too far into another lane, and the guy comes next to her, rolls down the window, and the passenger side and shoots in the car and kills this woman before they could even get her to an ambulance. And they just caught him, a brother. Just shot his road rage that was totally unnecessary because the guy, it's not like they were going back and forth. He just merged into the lane, didn't see the guy, and he just got mad, rolled his window down, caught up with him, and shot in the car and killed him. Foolishness. It's just crazy foolishness, senseless killings that this is the world we're living in. It's only the mercies of the Most High. And that's why there was a time when, people do something, you flip the bird, you better not flip the bird. Right. You don't know what they carrying. You don't know what they're gonna do. I remember last year, they followed a guy and his whole family to the house and waited till they parked in the driveway to shoot them and killed the daughter. This is the world we're living in. It's sad. It's sad. How do you defend yourself against something like that? There is no defense. Your only defense is your righteousness and the Most High's mercy. And you pray that the Creator will give us that. Okay, so now let's talk about this trial that I want to talk about. I missed the first day because it fell on our car, and so I missed Shane evening, which was opening statements and whatnot, and they had some witnesses. But for the rest of the week, I'm glued to the TV. I got to now start finding chores that allow me to sit still and watch it. So I'm changing my whole schedule around because I cannot take my eyes off it. And somebody needs to know how this trial is going, because when we get to the end of it, we need to know how did we get this result. And I can tell you that the George Floyd trial, the trial for Derek Chauvin, one cold-hearted man. When you hear the stories of the people who witnessed it, so they started out with the witnesses of the people who were videotaping him and how they were trying to convince him to stop, take his knee off the man's neck, and trying to get him to at least check for a pulse and make sure he's okay. The coldness in his heart, you could see it in his face. I mean, he's moving his knee around. I mean, just digging into the man's neck. Okay, so we heard from them, several of those witnesses, and then they went on to the EMT workers and said that they had to tell him, get your knee off his neck so we can help him. At this point, we know the man was dead. So they called them up. Then they called up the police, who said that all of the things he did was deadly force. It was totally unnecessary. It's not in the manual. He was never taught that. And then you had these other three stooges that were there, and none of them made any effort to tell him that this is not good. Roll him over, stop, take the knee off, let's check him. And they were pleading with these people. As a juror, you have to say, what can they be thinking? Because don't forget, this is not the first trial that has happened where somebody got off. And so I'm watching this and I'm saying, how? Because in all the other cases, they didn't have all of this evidence. They didn't have all of these videos. So it's gonna really be hard for them to figure out a way for a juror, and all they need is one juror to say, I think he acted reasonably. And now you have a hung jury.
Because all 12 of them have to agree that that this is, this was a crime. And if one of them say, well, I don't know, there's a problem. So we can open up a discussion here because, this stuff will really, really make your blood boil. All right, I'm going to take the reader first, and then I'll take you next, Michelle. I read an article earlier this week during this trial, and from the break stance, I just don't understand how this would fly. But this is the defense, what they're trying to, they're trying to say, trying to justify or try to take the light off what really happened. This is what the defense team will try to do. So the defense team will try to focus the jury on the aspects such as the fact that the opioid fentanyl was found in Floyd's system, as well as methamphetamine, and that he had underlying health conditions. So the defense is basically saying, regardless of what we saw on tape and what the witnesses what they actually saw and witnessed as well, because he had these underlying health conditions and he had these drugs in his system, that was the reason for his death. And I just don't understand how that will, is that even, I know the system and they have to have the defense side of it, but how is that even, why would they even bring that up? How is that right? As far as trying to explain whether or not this man was murdered. Okay, well, he just said it, grasping at straws. Let me just say this to you. They have every right to mount a defense for him. So now keep in mind, this is the state's case. They haven't brought their case yet, but they're going to. So every witness that comes up, because first of all, his ex-girlfriend came up. She testified and she said, yeah, we were, they had to humanize them first because, every time they say drug addict, then they try to create this image, what that is. And when they talk about drug addicts, they usually talk about us. They're talking about, heroin addicts or, something like that. They're not talking about people who are opioid, abusers. And a lot of these people get on these drugs very innocently. So, they brought them on and she said that they've been trying to get off these drugs and they got on it because of pain. They were both suffering from pain and what have you. So the defense has to mount some type of defense. So they got to come up with stuff. I get why they do it because they have to try to get him off. God forbid, but this is why they do that. But if you listen to the pundits that are making comments as between the witnesses and whatnot, when they're talking about this trial, they all say that it's not going to overcome the fact. First of all, he was walking around. If you saw the video of him in the store, he was dancing, he was laughing, he was joking. If he was that drugged up, he would have been nodding, he would have been sluggish or whatever the case might be. There is no way. And they got so many videos, it's going to be impossible, in my opinion, that the jury can buy that argument. They're going to mount an argument. They have to mount an argument, but I don't see how in any wise they can come out and say, oh, that's what killed him. The knee on the neck killed him. It's obvious. The guy was fine and he didn't go into that. And they got to deal with, they haven't done with the autopsies yet and all of that. So that's going to come up. Now he can have all these drugs in his body, doesn't mean that's what killed him. Right. If they can prove that was the main cause of his death, then they can convict him. And so, all of that stuff is a red herring. It's to throw their attention off of this. And unfortunately, a lot of these trials, like the Rodney King trial, somebody mentioned earlier today, they took that trial out of LA and took it up into another county where you get all white jurors. And that way they can, they have a whole different perception as us as a people. And they can say the cops, and that's where the police can do no wrong. Right. Okay, and so that's what they're trying to do. But in this jury, they have at least 3 blacks.
They have two mixed race people, and then they have, I think, a majority of white people. But I don't see how they're going to, like I said, I'm watching this trial because I just want to see how it's going to turn out. I watched the OJ trial too. I don't, so we don't want to talk about that. I watched that trial for weeks because I was actually on convalescence from the surgery. And I watched a lot of that trial. And, yeah, let me stop now because my family, they're going to get mad. He did it. Okay, so,
You know that Alicia was said, yeah.
everybody on this Zoom don't agree with me, so, they can send their messages. We don't want to go there, but you can if you wish. Ms. Sade, you had a question, you had a comment on this whole thing?
Came. So this is what my daughter and only Shabbat Shalom. We use this as an example talking about the Torah and how to, because we cannot be false witness. We as Israelites, not black people, but Israelites, we can't go after the majority to be wrong. So as a practice, how do you sit as a judge when there's high pressure to judge a certain outcome, but there's evidence that's coming out? And how do you maintain, if you were on that jury, how would you maintain clarity on what's going on? Right. And why would it be, the same thing you just said, why would it be that they tend to, some of these cases go where they're acquitted or they're let go? And the way I can see it is if this is confused for a hate crime, which has its own laws, you have to prove racial hatred. If you say first degree murder, you have to prove planned murder. And when the prosecution team is ginned up by the mob to kind of do that, it's like an old school KKK lynching. You don't have enough evidence for that. And you have one jury that says, I don't know if it's enough. And it's on that. So if they overplay their hand, that's how they would lose this. However, I said, here are some things. So the autopsy says, it's a 6'4", 200-something pound black man. An average sized white man's knee is not gonna, it's gonna be like a woman on a man's back. It's not gonna crack your neck or there's no obvious like silver bullet in that. There's not like a cracked spine or like signs of blue skin or something that you were choked to death from that. And they're going to say, he was resisting arrest and say, hey, let me lay down here. And they said, all right. And of course you got a knee on them. But they called the ambulance as soon as they arrived. I'm not defending them. I'm saying, how do you clarify? Because this is how they'll get off or get on or move forward. Because they'll say, we called the ambulance as soon as we saw he's erratic, and we saw that he was trying to swallow something as we confronted him. And he did get that the year before, and they had the video released of that. Of him swallowing drugs, saying, mama, and I can't breathe, and he's just getting arrested like, walking through the car. But he's going nuts, and he went to the hospital. So they'll say, he knows if he swallows drugs, he'll go to the hospital, and he won't go to jail. Because he's ODing, and we have to send him to the hospital, and he was trying to do it again. He asked, just let me lay down on the street, I'm not gonna get in the car. Okay, we're gonna wait till the ambulance. But what I told them is, from the second that the ambulance arrives, you don't need to hold him back. Right. And they're telling you, let him up, we can get him in a gurney now. From that second on, now it becomes, according to the Torah, it's the same thing as if somebody's about to drown, and you say you're the hero, and I'm gonna finish. And if I hold you from being able to go onto the lifeboat that comes out from the other lifeguards, and I'm saying I'm a lifeguard, and I'm just holding you there, and you're still sinking underwater, and I know you're not getting on that boat, and you're not swimming ashore, and I'm just sitting here holding you, swimming in place. Every second I'm doing that, if you drown, now I'm the one that stopped you, because there were other people there to save your life, and I stopped that from happening. So I think that to me would be, if they're smart, focus on that part, because you can't defend that. All the other stuff, it's very hard to say, you cracked his neck, or did something, because if they go that direction, they can prove that, okay, that it wasn't there.
I disagree. I think this case is more simple than that. I get your point, but I think it's complicated and a little more for them than it really is. It wasn't about the use of cracking his neck. It was the absence of blood and oxygen. There's two things that were going on. The side of the neck, holding pressure on the side of the neck is how you can render them unconscious because you stop the blood flow, which means the blood can't go to the brain and what have you. So that's the argument. And the way he was moving his neck, you just really can't tell. And keep in mind, there are two things. Two things were going on simultaneously. They had him in handcuffs and they had him prone, which means they had him on his chest and on the front of his body. Then they were sitting on him. Let somebody sit on you and see if you can breathe. The pressure, they had two people besides Chauvin, they had two other people holding him down with their knees, so he could not breathe. His neck was turned sideways, but the rest of his body, including the fact that he was handcuffed and they hog-tied him, and then they were pressuring him down, and he was not getting enough oxygen. That's so he was losing oxygen, air, and he was losing blood because of where he was holding him down on his neck. And it took people that hang. You think when somebody hangs, they hang like that? No, it takes minutes for people to hang. When lynchings didn't happen like, as soon as they let you the rope from under you, whatever's on you, you don't die right away. That's a very, very slow death. And in this case, he had it on there for 9. He was long dead before he took his knee off his neck. But even long before that, when they were saying, check his pulse, he's not breathing, he's foaming at the mouth. All of these were opportunities for him. He had a responsibility. First of all, the procedures they were using on him were wrong. The one where they had him prone was against policy. And because you start him like that, once you handcuff him, you're supposed to put him on the side. The second one was there is no policy to put your knee on his neck. So all of these things is what caused his death. And they're going to have different things that they're going to say. And his argument, what he's trying to say is he died from something else. They're not trying to say he didn't do all of this. He's trying to say, that didn't cause his death. Well, if you look at it, if you see all the angles, and when he came through the other side of the squad car, and they put him on the ground, once they had him under control, they should have turned him to the side. He couldn't do anything. They had him all tied. There's no way that he was struggling to the point where he had to keep his knee on his neck. And so it's going to be almost impossible, except for the fact that there's a racist juror in there, and somebody who thinks that the cops can do no wrong. That's the only mentality that is going to allow them to feel justified in letting this guy off. Plain and simple. Now, what degree of murder or manslaughter it is another case. They charged him with 3 different degrees of murder and manslaughter. So what they're going to do is, what they're doing throughout this trial is they're trying to meet every element for every one of them. Because if he misses one, if they miss on one, they can probably get him on another. And hopefully they'll get him on the most serious charge, and they can put him away for life. So that's what they're trying to do. But it's very, very complicated. There's no doubt about it. But I don't like to use a case like this that has all of the facts in front of us. I don't like to use hypotheticals because there's no hypothetical necessary in this case. They have so many different angles that they've shown us. They just started showing the police cam. And then they brought on the number one homicide detective in the force in Minneapolis, who said everything he was doing was unnecessary. He was using deadly force on a person who was not used. You can only use deadly force against deadly force, and there was no deadly force being used against him. So there's no justification for it. And the only way that this is going to get past all of these different elements is if it's a racist or a prejudiced juror on that trial. That's it. Plain and simple.
And there are also two.
Okay. And I just want to say this, I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. I wanted to do when he was speaking, and I apologize. I just want our young brothers to pay attention to this, because it's so important that you don't get yourself in a situation. Because you don't have to, I'm not saying he asked for it, but he did pass a $20, fake $20 bill, and cause and effect. We talk about it all the time. You can choose the cause, but you can't choose the effect. And then after he, they caught him, I don't know if he had a name or whatever the case might be, but all of that led him into this situation. If he didn't pass the $20 bill, guess what? The clerk that came up there was so upset, because his thing was, I should have just ate the $20. He could have just taken the $20 and paid the thing as taking a bad. He knew it was a bad bill and he took it anyway, but with the understanding, well, I don't think he knows it's a bad 20, so I'm going to have to replace the $20. So he did that, and then after he thought about it, and he talked to his fellow workers, he decided that he was going to try to get the money back. So they went out and talked to him, said, come back in the store. They went, it's all on video. He would not come back in the store. So then they said, call the cops on him, and they called the cops on him. And then, of course, that's when all of this stuff got out of control. So there were so many opportunities for it to go a different way. You see what I'm saying? And so I'm just saying this to the young brothers, do the right thing. He was 42, so you don't have to be a young brother. Do the right thing and not let yourself get, because you think that the consequence is going to be a fine. But you don't know what's going to happen when you get in the hands of these people. You just don't know. And so we just have to keep that in mind at all times. We can't blame everything on the cop. We got, I don't say that the man deserved to die for what he did, by no stretch of the imagination. But again, we could choose different causes, and then we can't choose the effects and where these things are going to lead us.
Message.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Shalom Aleichem. There was a time in my life where I worked for New York City Emergency Medical Service. I was also an auxiliary police officer in 2 different precincts in New York City. So all the rules were broken all over the place. Right? Medically, police-wise, every rule was broken. But this is not the first time. It's not the second time. It's not the 10th time. It's not the 50th. I want you to recognize this. This is only this case because of what God did in the earth. He shut the whole earth down and made everybody watch. He made everybody watch. All the people who said, well, it's not really that bad. Maybe this excuse that, this excuse that, all of that, make an excuse. But God made everybody sit still. Watch and see. I want you to see that the cries for this thing broke out not just in Minneapolis, it broke out in every state in this country. It broke out in France, it broke out in England, it broke out in Switzerland, it broke out in Australia. It broke out all over the world because Almighty God, let me tell you about this. Almighty God is getting ready to do a thing. He's showing everybody to their face. So that nobody gets to say, well, I didn't know. God is making it happen. The perfect storm. You heard what my Lord Aharon said. There was multiple opportunities for the thing to go the other way. And God stayed his hand. And sometimes what happens is that we wind up being we call it a victim, but God has made him a sign. God made him a sign. Look at this now. Look at it in your face. I want you to look at it so that you can see it. I want other nations to look at it so they can see it. I want everybody to look at this, and I want you to see the whole world. This ain't something new. Eric Gardner, he hollered, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. He was this big, cock this big. He choked. Why? Because your windpipe ain't but this big. But God is doing something. So what you need to pay attention to is what God is doing now.
Right.
He's moving in this earth.
changing minds and turning up things. The Capitol, the SAR started, the Capitol got attacked. Are you serious? You better watch this. This is not just about that. Almighty God, blessed be his holy name. See, we read it in the scriptures, and we always think like it's going to happen tomorrow. We all want the salvation, but we ain't ready for God to put his hand in the earth. You know, they used to say years ago, everybody want to go to heaven, but nobody want to die. Woo. God is doing this thing. That's why we got to get it right. That's why this is a message for us. Love each other. Deal right. Deal with godliness and holiness. Because I am terrible. Y'all don't know me. Y'all come talking about the beneficent one, the magnificent one, the holy one. Yes, I'm all of that. But you need to also remember I am awful and terrible. Watch it. Because God is doing this thing. This ain't new. I watched I was watching it I watched the trial. I remember all the trials. All the evidence get washed away. This time God said, I'm going to show it to you to your face. Pay attention, Lee. You hear it? What'd you say? Son of the Kohen, what'd you just say? You just said it started around Passover. God, just like in ancient days, God shut us in so he could do his work. Pay attention.
I think this is definitely going to be different, Rabbi. I do believe it's going to be different. It's too many things we call a perfect storm. And I think it's going to be different this time, but there's still that little thing in my head saying, you got away with it so many times before. You know, someone in the chat said, what's going to happen? What do we think is going to happen if it's acquitted? I can tell you what's going to happen if it's acquitted. They're going to burn the city. Unfortunately, we're going to burn down the wrong houses. We're burning down our own houses and our own neighborhoods. You know, that's where I think, you know, this riot thing has been foolhardy on the parts of Israel, because we don't go out of our neighborhoods because we are afraid we know what's going to happen if we go to somebody else's neighborhood to burn their stuff down. So we burn down the stuff that's right around the corner from us, where we can run and hide under our beds after, you know, everything's set ablaze. But then when we wake up the next day, there's no place to get milk and Pampers for our kids. You know, I mean, we've been doing this for years. I lived through the 60s when Martin Luther King was killed, was assassinated, which his anniversary of his assassination is tomorrow, by the way. And when he was assassinated, I lived in Brownsville, and anybody that knows Brownsville, Pickens Avenue and Sutter Avenue, where the stores we used to have to go to, burned down. They burned everything down Pickens Avenue, everything down. And this is just one neighborhood. I mean, I'm sure that it was so many other places. We burned, and then we had nowhere to go. We had no grocery store. We had nothing. You know, days later, we just had burned out edifices, and that doesn't help us. So really, you know, it's just an opportunity to loot. That does not help us. You might get a free whatever it is for that day, but that ain't gonna last you long. Whatever you can carry, you run in there. Okay, so you go to Best Buy now, and you get a computer or you get a TV. People running out with stuff they can't even carry. I mean, really, is that really going to help the situation? I know it's anger and I know why we do it, but I'm telling you, it makes no sense. I understand it, but I totally disagree with it because it doesn't help us. We need to march if we have to march. We need to vote. If you're going to fight the enemy. Don't fight your neighbor. And then more people end up dead. It's a tough situation. We put ourselves in this situation. We cannot forget that. But do we deserve this? The Most High has to take this off of us. And hopefully, with things that are happening in the earth and this particular trial that set everybody up, because Before he got killed, Breonna Taylor was killed, Aubrey was killed. I mean, you had all of these other deaths just days and weeks before, and it didn't matter. But this particular one, because it was so visible, is hopefully going to change not only the minds of the people. And I talked about this, I think, last week about racism, being racist or not being racist and being anti-racist. In other words, calling out the racists. A lot of people won't do that. You know, they know their neighbor or their family member is racist. They're just gonna listen and keep it moving. Well, I don't feel that way, but they're not gonna tell them what they're thinking and how they're moving is wrong. Because racism, if you think it in your head, it's bad enough. But usually it turns into words and actions. And it's gonna affect a lot of people. And that's why I stress to our young men, when they see images on the TV of a black man doing something, they don't see the ones where they're out there working and hustling and doing the right thing and getting an education and making a good representation. They ignore that. But if they see one do the wrong thing, then when you walk into their office looking for a job, you're not going to get it. Because they're going to carry that over. We have to take care of ourselves. We got to understand each other better. We got to look out for each other, and we got to stop killing each other. We got to stop victimizing each other. Because if we're still waiting for a handout from somebody, we're never going to get out. We're not going to get out of here, and we're never going to make it. We're not going to survive. All right, we have a young person over here. We're going to take the hands of our young people who want to know what they're thinking, keep them involved. This one right here makes me nervous. Shabbat shalom.
When it comes to Black Lives Matter, I watched this something kind of like PragerU.
Something like what?
PragerU or something. It was talking about Breonna Taylor's life before she got killed. It said that she helped her boyfriend sell drugs, and also she had a condo on her and a condo that had her name on it also, and before she died, she wasn't asleep. They actually said that she was awake when
You have to speak into the mic.
Speak up. Please, speak up.
They said that she was Breonna Taylor was awake once the boyfriend started fishing on the police.
Okay, I don't think it's relevant, but let me just say this, some of the things you said, it sounds like somebody's trying to discredit her some kind of way. This is what happened. Her boyfriend had no drugs in the house. They were looking for somebody with drugs, and he might have been a drug dealer. I'm not a drug dealer, I'm not sure. But what happened was, they were looking for somebody else, and they actually went to the wrong house. And they changed the law. The law back then, what they had was called a no-knock law, where they could just break down the door and go into somebody's house if they thought they committed a crime. So in her case, they broke down the wrong door. And certainly, if you're in the house and somebody breaks down your door, you're thinking they're coming in there to harm you if you're not doing anything wrong. So the boyfriend started shooting at the police, and then they say that he shot first. I don't believe it. But anyway, they say he shot first, and then they shot back and ended up shooting and killing her. I don't think if somebody breaks down your door, you're gonna wake up. So she wasn't asleep when they shot her. But it doesn't matter. She's in her bed, she's minding her business, and they don't have the right to go in there. So they changed that law. In that particular city, which is in Louisville, Kentucky, they don't have the right to go in and break in anybody's house anymore. They have to knock first. Okay, so I understand what you're saying, but there's no justification for what happened to her. There's no justification. Now, her mother is upset. I believe the family's gotten paid, damages, but her mother is still waiting for somebody to get arrested, and they're not going to. At this point, I doubt if they're going to arrest them. And then you have the Louisville Attorney General saying that they weren't going to do anything. And so, It's very difficult that she's gonna get the justice that she seeks. Okay.
There's also an online comment from Yolanda.
Okay, we can go there.
Torah about and just another thing is to be careful of is how they try to really depict us in the media. You know, they'll bring up old things and they will try to bring that information to the forefront to kind of overshadow the real situation at hand. One thing I've noticed on the trial as well is the way that they really try to depict black men being angry, having issues with controlling their anger. And I think that the gentleman that was, he was well known in martial arts. I mean, he was on the stand. You know, the defense attorney was really trying to pull it out of him. So were you really getting upset when you saw this? And he really handled himself really well. So it's very important that we always conduct ourselves, be able to handle ourselves in a way that we don't come off too aggressive. It's okay to be upset, but you have to be able to control your emotions. And it's very important to have that discipline. But that's the thing that they will try to do. They try to bring up all of the dirt. We all have past, we all have history with us, but they'll try to do that and try to shy away from the real issue at hand. So you have to just be real careful with that one issue.
That's all a part of, I agree with you 100%, and that's all a part of the judicial system that we live in, the criminal justice system that we live in, where they can do these types of tactics. You know, this criminal justice system is not justice, and we know that. And what they try to do is discredit the witness so that they trying to neutralize his effect on the jury. He was cool with what he did and everything, he did it right, and he maintained his cool. And I got to ask that defense attorney, what would you do if one of your family members or somebody you know in the neighborhood is being killed right in front of your eyes by the person who's supposed to help you and take care of you, you know, and not be upset?
Right.
You watching somebody die, that's not gonna upset you? Right. Listen, there's a whole different set of rules for depending on, you know, your race in a lot of cases, and you know, it just makes absolutely no sense. When you know, when those two people that OJ didn't kill, you know, got killed, it was an uproar. You know what I'm saying? And he got off. Legally, when you get off, that means you're acquitted. Then you're not guilty. You know, we know acquittal doesn't mean you're not guilty. But guess what? Those people were gonna ride him until they got him on something. You know, and I don't want to talk, I don't have no problem with him getting off, but we need to call a spade a spade. No pun intended. Okay.
This is two online comments.
Okay, yeah, let's deal with the comments online.
One is from saying, given what is currently being discussed, this is one or two. Given what is currently being discussed, is there any reference to these times where race is going to get together against him, husband against wife, parents against their children, and vice versa, to simplify? Is there guidance written in the Torah on these current times and situations?
Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28 tells us what's going to happen. Covers just about every scenario you could think of if you know how to make the analogies, because of what we did when we forsook the Creator. He brought us in this land and we were going to be mistreated. All these things are going to happen to us. This is all a part of the curse. Now, I'm not saying it has to last forever. We as individuals have to redeem ourselves from the curse. I don't think we can redeem ourselves as a people until we redeem ourselves as a community, as a family, individually, and then we can get to the point where there's a sufficient remnant that everybody's not going to get saved, because some of us like it here, some of us like the drama, some of us like the violence, you know, and we've just gone so far, and it's going to take generations to get back to where we need to go. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not like they expected JC to come tomorrow morning and then all the world's going to be saved. It's not happening like that. It's a righteous nation that's going to have to be redeemed before we're going to get back home and before we're going to be reestablished as a nation. And so there's a lot of work to be done. And the more we think of it as pie in the sky kind of thing, the longer it's gonna take for us to become a nation again. Because we're not really trying to put in the work, we're not putting in the effort, we're not purifying our hearts, our deeds, and the way we work one with another.
This, the second one is do you think vaccine passports are a good idea for this country as a result of the global pandemic issue? And what are the implications for people of color who may be against getting a vaccination?
Vaccines are a personal decision. I wouldn't tell somebody to get it, and I wouldn't tell somebody not to get it. I think that it's a personal decision because it's your body, and you have to decide whether it's right for you. This is the thing that I do know. I know that the virus is killing us.
And also about the passport idea, like the vaccine passport.
Well, you can't, that's out of our control. If a country says, I don't want you coming here and bringing this virus in my country, then you just can't go there. I don't think a vaccine passport is going to be required by the domestic travel. Okay, now let's say if you want to go to a ball game or if you want to go to a ball game or if you want to go to a concert or something of that nature local. The establishments, first of all, the United States government, the Biden administration has already said that they are not putting these type of restrictions on it. The individual companies have to do it. So if the airline wants it, then you want to fly, you're going to need it. You can't tell them that, I'm not going to do it. You're not going to get on the plane. And so everybody has to decide for themselves whatever it is they're trying to do is worth the effort to get that vaccine. If you feel that you're against it, nobody can tell you that you have to get it, but that means that there's certain restrictions that may be placed on you. So you're going to have to make that decision. It's an individual decision, and and you're going to decide based on what it is you're trying to do and whether the people who hold the authority over that particular decision, which is not you. The only thing you can do is say whether you want to go or you don't want to go, but you can't decide whether you can get on that plane if they have a rule that says you can't without the proper documentation. And so this is what it's come to. I have no idea where this is going. The creator is in this also, but you can't get into a lot of countries right now. They're still shut down, and their money and their livelihood depend on travelers. And yet they have not opened up their countries. And so this is a scary thing. This virus is a scary thing, and it's killing twice as many of our people as it is anybody else. I don't know if you all know that. It's killing twice as many of our people. You know why? Because number one, we have the most underlying health condition problems. So we got the hypertension, we got the diabetes, we got all these different health issues going on. Obesity runs rampant in our communities. And so between that and the fact that we have the lessened health care, we get insufficient health care, all of these different things, these things are helping to kill our people. And then we don't want to be safe. We're still making bad decisions. And so I don't know where this is going, but you're going to end up staying in your house with your mask on. I mean, there's not a whole lot of options. It's dangerous out there. Now, you might want to sit around and say, well, if everybody else gets the vaccine, then I don't have to get the vaccine because everybody's got it. No, if you get 80% of people get the vaccine, then 2 out of 10 people that you might be around can give you the virus. Sure.
People getting inoculated who have the vaccine can still get the virus and they can still pass it to you. Wear your mask.
Right.
I'm just telling you, it only, the vaccine helps you to have a better chance of surviving COVID. It doesn't stop, there's no definitive proof that it stops you from acquiring the COVID nor passing the COVID.
Right.
So don't be under some false sense of security because all of a sudden you around people who got vaccine. Because they'll live and you'll get it and wind up in the hospital. Let's all be safe.
And the strangest thing about it is that we think, oh, if we around somebody we know, we can't get it.
That's not.
You know, if I'm around somebody I know, we know each other, so we're fine. You don't know where they've been. You don't know what they've been doing. No. I'm not believing that. Right up to you over there. You're not up there.
Yeah, that's your comment.
Y'all ain't hear that. So let's keep it. You might try to start lying up in this. Start lying up here and stop.
There's a
Okay. Could you go ahead, read it? I can't see.
Yehudah Devar Murray. Ask you to unmute. Yehudah Devar muted.
She's a nurse. Let's hear from her. That's not her.
No, that's the wrong, yeah, that's not me.
I recognize you, Rivera. Go ahead. You're on. Can she be heard?
You ask her to unmute. She's on the side. Okay. You have your hand up.
No, my hand is not up.
Oh, you don't have a question?
As that was somebody up closer to the top.
Okay, Torah.
Ain't the one.
Is there someone there or not?
There's Tamar here. Let me ask her. Tamar. So Tamar, you can speak. Yeah, we can. So you had your hand up.
She said accident, my lord.
Oh, she said accident. Okay, so we're done with that. Okay, that's it. No other questions, no other comments? We can move on.
It was just a comment from Isha, Rabbi Yehudah about Royal Caribbean saying that you must be vaccinated. Royal Caribbean saying you must be vaccinated to cruise, and then Rabbi Yehudah said that was more for staff and crew versus passengers. Rabbi Yehudah goes on to say, right now ships aren't sailing, and when they do, they'll be under 50% capacity.
Yeah, the world's gonna be a different place. I can tell you that. I don't know how they're gonna do it. They're trying to figure it out. My suggestion is wait and see what everybody does, how it works out. You do not want to be stuck in the ocean going around in circles because they have another outbreak. So they're gonna have to, they'll tweak it and figure out what the best policy is. And, for those of us who travel and travel frequently, you gotta make some serious decisions. Because, if the country don't let you in, you can't go. There's a lot of things we want to go back to normal. Some people have already tried to go back to normal and they're just spiking in these cities where they're being careless, and, taking the masks off. And, it's dangerous out there. It's dangerous out there. And so we really have to be careful. And it doesn't have to be, like I said, you don't have to be around strangers to get this, One person in a group that's around the wrong person and they come back into the group. Everybody thinks they're all safe, but we're not all safe. We have to use our wisdom. And so, I don't know how long this is going to take, but I'm not trying to rush it because I'm trying to live. So I'm not trying to rush it. This is what the Most High put on us, and we're just going to have to weather the storm and try to survive it. Try to survive it. That's it. If you want to take chances, then take the chances, but don't take foolish chances. I'm wearing 2 masks, okay? I'm washing my hands, I'm using sanitizer, I'm socially distancing, I'm doing all of that. Let's be smart. Okay, so I think we're done with that. I will keep you posted on this trial. because it's not going anywhere. And someone asked what's gonna happen if he gets acquitted. It's gonna, all ages is gonna break loose. It's gonna be very, very bad. And I can tell you right now, a lot of people are gonna be staying in their houses, especially the other races are gonna be staying in their homes because they know we're not using common sense when we get angry like that. So let's leave that alone. All right, so now let's get into some history. I got like an hour to go. No, not quite, because we're gonna shut down a little early again. Let everybody go home because we have a double Sabbath in this community. So I want to do some history. So let's go into Samuel. We're gonna pick up where we left off in 1 Samuel. Let's do that. I just want to tell people online who are not familiar with us what we do. We have these discussions because so much information needs to come out. And we try to keep sticking to things that reflect that affect us in our community. And we want our young people to always know what's going on, because a lot of times we don't watch the news, and they need to know what's going on so they can be aware and they can take appropriate action. I mean, I remember when God rest his soul, Cohen Levy was alive, and 40 years ago he would do. He called it current events, right? He called it current events, and he would go down the list of things that are happening, because he said an informed people is a wise people. And so this is what we try to do. We try to make sure our children and even our adults are wise and understand what's going on in the world, so that you know how to move throughout the world, whether it's in your job, your school, or just everyday life. This is what we try to make sure we keep you abreast of what's happening. And my job is to do that along with these other brothers here to teach, so that everybody is aware of what's going on in the world and they can take the appropriate action. Okay, so we're going to get into 1 Samuel. We're going to be starting, I believe, in the 7th chapter. And so I'm going to give you a brief synopsis. You ready, my Lord? All right, so the last 2 chapters that we covered was about the fact that the Philistines had captured, had slaughtered many people in Israel. We're going back to the beginning, which would be Eli and his sons and that whole thing. But anyway, the last 2 chapters, they had captured the Ark of the Covenant, and they took it into the house of Dagon. And Dagon was harsh on Dagon. Dagon took a pretty good beating, and then they started, and after that, the Philistines were some of them were smitten with death, and some of them were smitten with hemorrhoids, and so they decided to pass the Ark of the Covenant around to other cities, the 5 cities of the Philistines, and then they realized, they went to their wise men, we're gonna call them that, and they told them, they said, what should we do? We got to send it back. How should we send it back? They said, send it back with 5 emeralds and 5 golden emeralds and 5 golden mice. And so they sent it back to the city of
B.A.K.B.Y.
B.A.K.B.Y, right? They sent it with B.A.K.B.Y and on a cart. And the Israelites, instead of calling the Levites to get the Ark of the Covenant, they decided to look and gaze on the Ark of the Covenant, killed 50,000 and some change of people, and then they got fearful and they called the Levites to come and get the cart. And that's where we're picking the story up in the 7th chapter, 1st verse of 1 Samuel. Hallelujah. Not bad? Not bad for an amateur.
We're in the book of 1 Samuel, the 7th chapter and the 1st verse. And the men of Kirat Yarim came and fetched up the ark of the Most High, and brought it into the house of Abinadab in the hill, and sanctified Eleazar his son to keep the ark of Yah.
Okay, so they called these brothers to come and get the ark, and they went to get it, and they brought it. They didn't take it back to Jerusalem or anywhere else. They took it into the house of Abinadab, and
I guess that's as far as they got with it, just to get it from wherever it was, from Beit Shemesh, and so then let's read on.
And they sanctified Eleazar his son to keep the ark of the Most High. And it came to pass from the day that the ark abode in Quirat Yeramim, that the time was long, for it was 20 years. And all the house of Israel yearned after Yah.
Now keep in mind that 20 years is a long time. And that's only because they weren't doing the law. They weren't doing the law. Came out of Judges, and they just came out of Judges, and they were still uncivilized about being a nation. And so they didn't have any structure. And then you had Eli's family in Shiloh acting the fool, and that whole Levitical order disappeared and was destroyed. And so there was no guidance and there was no leadership. They had Samuel, but Samuel was more of a spiritual person as opposed to a person who could give them guidance on how to run the nation. Okay, and that was not established under Samuel. And so this is what was going on, and there was a lot of confusion. Now, finally, the people were saying they yearning after the Most High, but you can't yearn after the Most High and have a little God in your little corner in the house somewhere. It wasn't working. They want to, it's like people who, they worship the Most High, and then they have a lucky this, and they have what they call it, a rabbit's foot, and they got all these other little things that they're using, you know what I'm saying? And they may have a little something else that they don't know that they're not supposed to have in the house. You can't, the Most High said, I'm not competing with that. All right? And so this is what's going on, and the people are really in a state of confusion. But they know they want the Most High because they're suffering under the hand of the Philistines, constantly being badgered and attacked by them, but they still don't get it. They're still trying to have the Most High and all of these other, Ashorim and all whatever it was, Ashorot, whatever come on, it's not going to work. Same thing we're doing today.
And Shemuel spoke unto all the house of Israel, saying, if ye do return unto the Most High,
cut out the foolishness
with all your heart, then put away the foreign deities and the aids from among you, and direct your hearts unto Yah, and serve him only, and he will deliver you out of the hand of the Philistines.
Now, how does he know that? Because he's a circuit priest. He goes from town to town to minister and judge the people and whatnot. He sees what they're doing. He sees the foolishness they're in. And he's telling them, listen, I know what you're doing. This is why the Most High don't want to be bothered with you. And we could say the same thing about us. This is why he doesn't want to be bothered with us to some degree, because we are into all kinds of foolishness. We are. We're just into all kinds of foolishness. And we think just because we know him, that's enough identity that he's going to bless us. We pray on the Shabbat. But how you living? How are you living? Some sheep.
Then the children of Israel did put away the B's and the A's and served Yah only.
All the alphabet. Go ahead.
And Shemuel said, gather all Yisrael to Mitzvah, and I will pray for you unto Yah.
Okay, now there's a possibility that he might help us because now y'all getting rid of all of these false gods.
And they gathered together to Mitzvah and drew water and poured it out before the Most High and fasted on that day. And says there, we have sinned against Yah. And Shemuel judged the children of Israel in Mitzvah.
Let's not go past it. He judged them. He's like, this is what y'all are doing wrong. This is what y'all need to be doing. Some shit.
Okay. And when the Philistines heard that the children of Israel was gathered together to Mitzvah, the lords of the Philistines went up against Israel, and the children of Israel heard it.
Okay, so the first thing the Philistines do, oh, wait a minute. They gathering together. They want to fight. Let's go fight them. Now when they have, as long as they have you under control and 1 and 2 here and 3 there, that's not really a fight for them. They already winning, so they know that. So once they see that we gather together, you know what happens when we start marching? They bring out the troops. If we start getting together, they start arresting people, breaking it up. They start throwing tear gas at us. All they got to know is we get together. That's trouble. We trouble when we get together like that. This was the same thing that was happening back then.
Make it clear.
and they were afraid of the Philistines. And the children of Israel said to Shemuel, cease not to cry to Yehovah our Elohim for us, that he save us out of the hand of the Philistines.
Now he can do that, but this is the thing. Let me go off track for a second here. Tell you about your life. Tell you about life. We do all of these different things that we're not supposed to do. And then everything goes upside down. We got all of these problems, and all of a sudden we want to pray to the Most High, and then we want instant gratification. We want instant, well, I'm doing the right thing. I've been doing the right thing for 2 weeks. I ain't get a blessing yet. Where's my stimulus check? You know, we want instant gratification after we've been doing the wrong thing for years. We've been defying the Shabbat. These are us that know ourselves. If we do the wrong thing, and then when we get back on track, we come out for one Shabbat service, we go home, and we're looking for instant gratification. It's not going to happen. And Shemuel, he has to do this because that's his job. He's a spiritual person, and he's going to give me the benefit of the doubt. And he's going to pray for us, and he's going to make an offering, a peace offering, burnt offering. He's going to, a guilt offering, do something so that the Creator will forgive us. We're atoning in the middle of the year because we got trouble on our doorstep. Okay, so I get that. And he should do that. But we have an obligation to not sit around, do the wrong thing, and then wait for the Most High to come and save us after we get on our knees and say a prayer. Yeah. There's retribution coming for the things we do wrong. Let's read on.
And Shemuel took a sucking lamb and offered it for a whole burnt offering to the Yah. And Shemuel cried unto the Most High for Yisrael. And Yehovah answered him.
Hallelujah.
And as Shemuel was offering up the burnt offering, the Philistines drew near to battle against Israel. But Yah thundered with a great thunder on that day upon the Philistines and discomfited them. And they were smitten down before Yisrael.
See, now that's the mercy of the Most High. Did we earn that? Did we actually earn that mercy from the Creator? That he went and fought our enemies like that? It doesn't take much to please the Most High. As you can see, it didn't take much for him to turn his wrath against Israel to try to save them from the Philistines, because it wasn't ever the Most High's pleasure to harm us.
Right.
We just don't give them a choice. Sometimes you got a kid, you got a bad seed or whatever in your kid, and you have to stay on them. Because if you don't, they're going to go down a road that they're never going to be able to recover from. But the mercies of Yah is that the effort is made, and he just doesn't want to see us destroyed.
Amen. And the men of Israel went out of Mitzpeh and pursued the Philistines and smote them until they came under B.A.K.B.Y.
They got courage. They got courage from what the Creator did, and now they said, oh, the Most High is on our side. Now we can go. Now we chasing them. Okay? When before we were scared just to know they were coming to town.
Then Shemuel took a stone and set it between Mitzpeh and Shin, and called the name of it Ebenezer, saying, Here the two have the Most High helped us. So the Philistines were subdued, and they came no more within the border of Israel, and the hand of Yah was against the Philistines all the days of Shemuel.
Hallelujah. Now, again, I'm just so thankful that the Creator has spared us, because we could have been destroyed. Well, there's nations that are much bigger than us is gone. They're extinct, and we are still here. And it's only because of the mercies of the Most High and the love he has for us as a people. Because other than that, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't. And we're scattered all over the four corners of the earth, but we're still alive, and we're still calling on the name of the Most High.
And the cities which the Philistines had taken from Israel was restored.
Oh, now they're getting their land back.
To Israel, from Ekron even unto Gath, and the border thereof did Israel deliver out of the hand of the Philistines. And there was peace between Israel and the Amorites.
So we're getting along with some of the foreigners, our cousins, Tom Shooter.
And Shemuel judged Israel all the days of his life, and he went from year to year in circuit from Bethel and Gilgal and Mitzpah. And he judged Israel in all those places. And his return was to Ramah, for there was his house. And he judged Israel and built there an altar unto him.
Okay, so now we're starting to get back on track. This is not going to last very long, but for the time being, Samuel has been a savior to the nation of Israel, and we are on the right track. But of course, the fact that they got into war with the Philistines and they probably had no leader among them, they are going to make a big, costly mistake.
Chapter 8.
Chapter 8.
And it came to pass when Shemuel was old that he made his sons judges over Israel. Now the name of his firstborn was Yoel, and the name of his second was Abiyahu. They were judges in Be'er-Sheba.
Okay, so now Samuel is getting old, and you know, it's like any family business, you start passing it on to your children. And yet, and this is so strange because Samuel came out of a house where the children were not following the law, and their father was a poor example for them in teaching them what it was they need to know. I think the problem that now Eli had no excuse because Eli was right there with his sons and he should have seen what they were doing. Samuel, on the other hand, was moving around. So he wasn't there to raise his children like a normal father would be able to do because he's around judging Israel, going all over the place. So when he gets home, you know, he thinks that he could just pass this on his children, but he wasn't disciplining them just like Eli wasn't disciplining his kid. So Samuel should have had some inclination that this was a possibility. So now he's decided, okay, you're going to inherit all of this, what I have, you know, which is not really wealth. It's more of the responsibility of judging Israel. Well, let's read on.
And his sons walked not in his ways, but they turned aside after
Lucre is like bribes.
And took bribes and perverted justice. Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together and came to Shemuel and to Ramah.
Okay, so it wasn't just anybody that came to Shemuel to complain. It was the elders, because they're the ones that realized, you know, we're like next in line. How are we going to keep this family together? And your sons are crooks, basically corrupt. They're corrupt. So how you trying to retire, you moving on, and now you're going to leave us with these dudes? You know, that was the problem. And Shemuel, I don't know what more he could have done in order to prepare them with good leadership, because obviously the priesthood wasn't established to be able to handle the nation of Israel. I'm not going to question the Most High, and I guess they should have used him as a leader, but they weren't their spiritual and mental state wasn't in a place where the Creator could have guided them through the priesthood, that they could have managed to live amongst all these nations, these foreigners, like they were supposed to, because they didn't cut them off like they were supposed to. But they needed a leader. And so, but the Creator didn't like the way they went about this.
And they said unto him, Behold, thou art old, and thy sons walk not in thy ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations. But the thing displeased Shemuel when they said, Give us a king to judge us. And Shemuel prayed unto Yah.
Okay, so Shemuel was upset, even though he should have understood that he didn't provide them with a successor to himself. But more than that, he knew the Creator wasn't going to be happy about this request that they made. And he had to go to the Most High with it, which the Most High was ready, like, what?
The Most High said unto Shemuel, Hearken unto the voice of the people in all that they say unto thee. For they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me. that I should not be king over them.
Exactly. Hindsight is 20/20. But what they should have done was they should have asked Shemuel to go to the Most High and ask them what should be the course of our action. Who should be your successor? Let the Creator make the decision to do whatever it is. But they in other words, it's like, you work on a job and you are subordinate to somebody else. The worst thing you could do is go out of the line of command and try to go over somebody's head to make a decision. And somebody's gonna not like that. Somebody's not gonna like the fact that you did what? And I'm right here, and you decided to go looking for somebody else to make this decision. You're gonna get yourself in trouble. You better start looking for another job.
According to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Egypt, even unto this day, and that they have forsaken me and have served deities, so did they also unto thee.
Exactly. So they doing all of this evil. They serve false gods. Then when he tells them to put them away, and and they're supposed to follow, he makes an offering for them, saves them from the Philistine. The Most High did that. They didn't have a leader. And he did all of that, and now they're going to turn around and say, let's get past the Most High. Even though he did that, we want what everybody else has.
Now therefore hearken unto their voice, howbeit thou shalt earnestly forewarn them, and shall declare unto them the manner of the king that shall reign over.
So the Most High is already established. I'm going to make your life miserable. Since that's what you want, when you tell you, that's the bad thing. When you ask for something your parents don't want you to have and you insist on having it, and you want to go anywhere? Okay, go ahead. And then you look, do I want to leave the house now? I don't know if I want to leave. No, go. You gotta go now. Okay, so they put themselves in a predicament with the Creator, and they're gonna figure it out after he admonishes them, but they weren't thinking. And this is the thing: the elders made this decision. It wasn't the common people. The elders made the decision to overstep or to ignore or get around the Most High in order to get this king.
And Shemuel told all the words of the Most High to the people that asked for of him a king.
So in other words, y'all gonna catch it now, but this is what you want. This is all the things that's gonna happen. Let me tell you what is gonna happen with the king. They don't care because they still want to be like the other nations. Their mind is made up.
And he said, this will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them unto him for his chariots and to be his horsemen. They shall run before his chariots. He will appoint them unto him for captains of thousands and captains of fifties, and to plow his ground, and to reap his harvest, and to make his instruments of war and instruments of his chariot.
They actually think this is a good thing because that's what all the other nations have. So they think this is a good thing. And guess what? They also think that, the king is going to go out there like he's only one person. He ain't going out there to get killed. And you're going to put your sons and your daughters. They had to have an army. There's no doubt about that. The Most High wasn't going to fight all their battles. They had to have an army. But the fact that they wanted a king, you have to realize that the king is going to be more interested in his own success and his own benefit than he is about the nation. Because he's a man.
And he will take your daughters to be perfumers, and to be cooks, and to be bakers. And he will take your fields, and your vineyards, and your olive yards, even the best of them, and give them to his servants. He will take the tenth of your seed and your vineyards, and give them to his officers and to his servants.
You think that money, that's their money. You think they're taking their money and their children and taxing them? You think that would have deterred them? That didn't deter them.
And he will take your men servants and your maid servants and your goodliest young men and your kamorim and put them to his work. He will take the tenth of your flocks, and ye shall be his servants. And ye shall cry out in that day because of your king, whom ye shall have chosen you.
And at some point, he's telling you, y'all gonna be sorry y'all did this.
And the Most High will not answer you in that day. But the people refused to hearken unto the voice of Shemuel, and they said, nay, but there shall be a king over us, that we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles.
Okay, so that's the whole plan, is to think that the king is gonna fight their battles, and the king ain't fighting the battles, you're gonna fight the battles. The king is gonna lead you out there to the slaughter, and then he's gonna hire you, you're gonna have to work for him. You gotta give up. Listen, we know what that crazy one did and took Nebuchadnezzar's land. So we know what's gonna happen. That's kings later, but they just didn't want to hear it. And so we're gonna see how this is gonna play out. This is our history.
And Shemuel heard all the words of the people, and he spoke them in the ears of the Most High.
He said, this is what they wanted anyway. God, they wanted anyway, so it's up to you. Make the decision.
And the Most High said unto Shemuel, hearken unto the voice, hearken unto their voice, and make me the king.
Mm-hmm.
And Shemuel said unto the men of Yisrael, go ye every man to his city.
All right, go home. We'll talk about it later. We got something for you. Just give us a little time to set it up. We're gonna stop there. We're gonna let Cohen come back up. It's a beautiful history, and it's a terrible history. And so hopefully we can learn from this history. It is what it is. There's nothing we can do to change it. We know we're gonna get a real doozy in the first king, and then we're gonna get a mighty man of valor for our next king. And we're gonna go through kings, we're gonna split the nation, and we're gonna end up where? Yep. In America. Well, praises to the Most High. Let's remember, I'm sure on this one coming up. Have a blessed day, family. Thank you all. Hope you enjoyed your feast. Most High bless you and keep you all safe from harm and danger. And Torah about our family online and our family from B'nai Adath. Most High bless you all and keep you safe. That's my prayer. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Let's give Esau another round of applause. We thank the Holy One of Israel for another Shabbat. We will be going into our seventh day of Kagmatso as the sun going down this evening. So even if we are in out a little earlier, it will still be the Shabbat for this community. And go home, and hopefully the Most High will prepare our minds to close out even the seventh day of Kagmatso, that He will spare our lives, and that we would even enjoy the closeout and come with our hearts full as we've been coming all these weeks, our hearts full, and thanking the Most High for the many blessings and mercies that He's bestowed upon each and every one of us. Let us not forget also that our families, many of our families have already ended their Kagmatso season. We hope and pray that God will bless them as well. And that one of these days, as God is in control of everything else, that He will allow us to be on the same page, and that we would all agree, not only that God is King, but that His holy days and all of the days that we observe come in at the same time, and that we will all observe it at the same time. So these days we have a lot to just pray for. And we don't admonish, we don't condemn anyone. Most High doesn't need our help in doing those things. Most High is wreaking havoc on this earth, as we have heard with what's going on and the very comments that were made. He does not need our help. Our job and our duty is to serve and worship Him, and to make sure that we treat one another in righteousness and in truth, justice, all these things that God, I think we read it last week, right? What was the Torah? How did it end? Who did that portion last week? Mori Shmuel, right? You said do what now? You remember? Do justly, love mercy, walk humbly with thy God, for in these things does he delight. And so we have to remember those things. You can't just read these things and then just go, come on, we gotta practice these things. God's telling us, he left it on record so that we can exercise and practice these things and live these things. So may the Holy One of Israel bless us. So we'll sing a song before y'all. Rabbi, you have a song you want to sing? Whatever one you're Relax. Well, let's start off with what's my name? Because I have slow. Because the reason being because you have to feel that song. Right? Come on, sir. You really have to understand why Corn Levy and Israel wrote this song. That's right. As I was speaking to the Mishal team and Maureen, we try to sing songs, especially around this season, the Hot Matzah season, that really associate with our independence, our liberation, our freedom, and all these things. And so What's My Name is one of those songs that we can sing, all the time, because we are in a dilemma right now, brothers and sisters. And so we have to be reminded that I've roamed this world all over, and that, we've been immersed in sin and shame. And also, no man's feet I have not been under. Just the same situation as Rabbi said, that man's knee on the neck, that's nothing new. Nothing new. It says in the Tanakh that these things would happen. And so I've been chained, whipped, and beaten. Slavery is my only fame. That's our fame. Remember, the nation of Israel started out in slavery in Egypt. We were nationalized, in slavery. And so what? Even my soul, the nation's plundered. What's my name? You think the nations out there would tell you who you are? You think they would tell you how to get back to the Most High God? No. They want you to be in the there's another song we sing, Jacob's children. Our minds are in a desert, He said, what's my name? Who could care? That man didn't care for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. For none to stand with me. Those cops that were around that cop Chauvin, they stood right there. Looked at. And then the sad part about it is you can't even blame our own people that watch, because then if they try to do something, then all hell will break loose. Then more lives will be taken. I alone have to bear my grief and misery. Comes the day that my God is tired. Like Rabbi said, he said that is a sign right there. George Floyd was a sign, because he said, all these people done died. I can go back to the days of Michael Griffin, Eleanor Bumpers. I can go right back there. I was there. I remember being a young lad in the 80s. Amadou Diallo. Shot 41 times.
I was the one that put the stick on it.
Right. Who was the other guy? 40, I forget his name. But you know what? It's been happening all too often. And I'm sure that our forefathers can go back even further than that. He said, where the heathens use his name, and he'll tear my bonds asunder. You got to look out now. You got to be prepared for freedom. See, freedom is not something that you just say, okay, tomorrow we're going to be free. No, you got to prepare. How you living now, you're preparing for what God has for us tomorrow. Freedom ain't free. And you'll hear when I proclaim, Yisrael, Yisrael, Yisrael is my name. So let's sing it together. Roam this whole world over, been immersed in sin and shame. No man's feet I've not been under.
was my name. I've been trained with an eternal slavery, my only faith, even my soul. Come on, young brother. The nations under was my name, was my name. Who could care for none but stand with me? I alone had to bear my grief and misery. Comes the day my body is tired, weight of Eden, use his name, and he'll tear my bonds asunder, and you'll hear when I proclaim, then you'll hear when I proclaim. I hope everyone is understanding and listening. See, God is watching, but are we watching too? Are we paying attention to the signs that Yah has put in the earth today? So, yeah, you say stay woke. Stay woke for the right things. See, we stay woke for the wrong things. We stay woke for the verses between Beyonce and this person. We stay woke for the, and I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong with that stuff. I happen to like her. Maisha knows that, so I can say it publicly. But what I'm saying is we have to now understand we need to stay woke for the important things that's going on in this world today. That's right, sir. That work. I like her too.
The sex of
My name.
My word.
Tomorrow, yeah. Thank you.
We did not. So we can sing Hey Queen instead of
Hey Queen, somebody.
And as I always point out, we asking y'all to establish this. Not only to make a stand, but establish it. Here are we are because of thy goodness.
Thank you. All of our family online, come on. All you gotta do is clap your hands.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Come on now. Praise the mighty God. Can we get some help? Come on. I need a day. Bring it down, my feet. Come on now.